my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the most amazing homesteading channel on the planet that typically has nothing whatsoever to do with homesteading. Homesteading off the grid. You'll have to forgive my voice here. I'm hoarse from screaming for football games all weekend. It's a Monday morning now, making this video a little earlier than usual because I'm going to keep it a buck, which if you're not part of Gen Z, you probably have no clue what that means. That means I'm going to be honest. Going to keep it a buck means I'm going to keep it real or honest. Not to be confused with capping or capping. Stop the cap means stop lying. If you're capping, you're lying, okay? So I'm not going to cap, I'm going to buck. Welcome to my world. Coaching 28 kids, middle school kids, 13, 14-year-olds on a football team. You learn an entirely new language. It's crazy. Even though it's all spoken in English, as far as the words go, what they mean is insane. So, it's early, plenty of daylight, and I'm going to show you something I discovered yesterday while I was digging with my shovel. Interestingly, in an area where I've done a lot of digging in the past, you'll notice all these trees behind me. My family and I planted them. We'll hear people talking about all the trees they planted, and we're like, yeah, how many trees you plant? They're like, 4. I'm like, yeah, we planted 4,000. Literally every tree you see around me, except for these 5 mature locusts that line the driveway, we planted. Now, technically, I'm not going to cap on you. We let 2.5 acres in the back, just that used to be part. This was all hayfield. We let that regrow, but the rest we planted. Let me get to it. So I'm digging these holes. I'm looking for the lost manuscript, the buried manuscript rather, of Utopia Shattered. Probably the best work of literature I've ever written, better than The Lunatic, which did great, and From the Graves of Babes and all those October Nights Halloween things. Here's my bees. This is ordinarily the time I'd come along and put some food on the plate for them because I know they're getting ready to come out. I'll come back and do that after we have this talk about my gruesome discovery. I put the food on one plate, and I exchange them. I'll get the food on a clean plate, bring it down, take that one into clean. Now, those are gravels because that's where I put their water. They can stand on the gravel, and drink in a group and not drown. So anyway, look at this. I planted all this. I'm sorry, I could go on and on about my trees forever. And that's part of the story. So you'll remember, for those of you who have been following me in this channel for the long haul, this is great. It's a bright, sunny, beautiful morning, but that direct sunlight can be kind of harsh, so I just step here to the side of my hedge. When I planted these things that are now 18 to 20 feet tall, they came halfway up my calf. They were only halfway up to my knee. We put these in about 5 years ago. And FYI, where'd we get them? We'd go up there in that meadow we were reforesting, dig them up, move them down here. It took 3 years to plant all these trees. Now, 8 years later that they've grown so much, we can see that the work was well worth it. It's kind of part of today's story too. So when we were digging all the holes all over this property to plant these trees, and listen, you're going to hear a car go by on the other side of this hedge. That's a big truck hauling a trailer. It's probably got some equipment on it. Barely saw a glimpse of it there in between these 2 trees. That's why we put them here. The house sits up here on the property, and we're kind of in a turn. It's another one. So we have like 200 yards worth of road front property, and we just wanted privacy. So we did this, and it's worked. It's cut down on the noise too. It's been a wonderful thing. So anyway, I'm going around digging all these trees. Then of course we wanted fruit producing trees. Oh man, just so many different trees around here. The individual that used to use this property as a hayfield, he didn't own it, had no legal rights to it. It was one of those generational local things. His second cousin's wife was third cousins with the owner or whatever, so it's, yeah, take the hay, then at least I don't have to mow it. It was great, but we bought our property for us, and he kind of took issue when we told him, yeah, you know that story, the how to get rid of the annoying neighbor with the crayon thing. So anyway, he seemed to be really to the point of being nervous while we were digging holes. You digging all them holes for? You ain't got no business digging all them holes. Like, well, we're not that it's any of your business, but we're planting trees. You don't need no trees. It's like, man, I said once, kind of like half-heartedly in jest, it's like, man, told my wife, this dude must be worried we're going to find the bodies he buried. And then we both kind of giggled, but by this point we'd kind of gotten to know him a little bit and determined that he pretty much is a toxic sociopath. And I thought, what if he's more than that? What if he's actually a toxic psychopath? See, I mean, there's a difference, man. Sociopaths, they'll have it, I mean, they'll kill you with 1,000 cuts. They mind screw you and typically get you to do damage to yourself. Psychopaths, they just straight out kill you and put you in a hole somewhere. I hope they don't get caught. I hope that maybe somebody doesn't buy that farmland and turn it into a private residence and start planting ornamental bushes and trees everywhere. Planted all these, every tree you see behind me as we pass. And then on this side, we've got Virginia burning bushes we planted. They're starting to lose their leaves now, but they were super beautiful when they were in their full autumn glory. There's another car on the road. We alternated the evergreens because most of this is hardwoods we planted. Look at this. They've been here so long, the cedars are producing seeds. Here's a maple. It's mostly hardwoods, but what we did is we alternated the planting of the evergreens in such a way that where even when all the leaves are off the deciduous hardwoods in the winter, we still have a wall of green. Yeah, so, well. That daggone buck I got that picture of the other night. It's at it again. Look at what he's done to this cherry tree. Of course, that's not super fresh. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the story. So I've been looking for this buried manuscript. Oh, that son of a gun. This is fresh. Look at that. He got one of my burning bushes. Yeah, can you see it really good here? Let's see, there it is. Look at that. Just tore that sucker right down. He got all these burning bushes. But listen, the thing about trees when you live in a heavily deer populated area is it's a war of attrition. I mean, there's only two ways to succeed. And we've used a combination of both. There's this, you put a metal tree guard around the tree. And again, like 95% of these trees, we just dug up from one side of the property and moved down to the other. And we learned quickly that any of the trees that we wanted to keep, we needed to put these around. And so I've gone around, and once the trees have reached 2 inches in diameter or more in thickness, I take them off because typically bucks won't rub anything bigger than that unless you get either a really aggressive young buck or just a beast alpha who wants to let you know size of trees aren't going to stop him. All right, so Utopia Shattered is the name of probably the best thing I've ever written, but there are several more stories in this work as well that are they need to be released to the world. I mean, that's why I buried them. It was scary. It was terrifying how great this literature was that I produced. And, I mean, isn't that beautiful? We planted all that we planted. It's amazing. Planted all these trees we're getting ready to pass. So, I had gotten caught up in, to be honest with you, winning. We've been killing it on social media for years. Revenue numbers coming in as if we're almost a small nation. I mean, it's just insane. And I got away. It's not that I started capping, but I got away from keeping it a buck. You know what I mean? I was writing for money, which is something I told myself I'd never do because, I used to be a competitive middle distance runner and I was really good. I was a state champion, went to college on a full scholarship, was pursuing Olympic glory dreams. But it became a business in that once I started running for money, not directly, but indirectly through tuition waivers and all this stuff I was getting to go to college as long as I ran track and cross country, it made it a job. It was no longer like a passion and something that I did because I loved it. I mean, it was crazy. It's like before that, everybody has their down days. No, I had very few of them. I made sure of that, and I pushed through the down days. As long as I wasn't under the threat of some sort of permanent or permanent injury or sort of injury that would cause me to be out of training for a while, I would run through pain. I would push past the minor kinks and dinks. And that's what all athletes, no matter what your sport is, must learn to do to succeed. I did that. But when I have those days, my coaches would come to me and say, hey, everybody has down days, man. It happens. You need to make sure you get some good rest tonight. Don't eat any junk when you get home, because that ain't helping you. You have a better day tomorrow. And they were always right, and it always worked. And I was past the point of not eating junk anyway. I mean, I wouldn't eat pizza. It's just because it got me further away from the goals I was trying to achieve. And that's part of it. If you're trying to achieve goals, there's a bunch of work you got to do. And then there's also certain things you got to make sure you're not doing. Eating garbage. If you're an athlete, dude, pick up a Gatorade, not a Monster energy drink. Just little things, and it's discipline. It requires discipline. And if you can do this, you will succeed. And not just in your sport of choice, but in life. It was so funny. Every time people told me, why are you planting all those trees? You don't need to be doing that. God, that's a lot of work. That doesn't make any sense. You think you're going to build a privacy hedge around a 6-acre property? That spurred me on, because that reminded me of people. Oh, what? You think you're going to win a state championship? Oh, wow. You think you're really going to get a college scholarship? Oh, my gosh, you're the biggest fool in the. I let those losers, because that's who says that stuff. It's the people who couldn't do it themselves, who want to convince you that you can't because they feel inadequate in your presence. That's all it is. When you hear people around you, when you're out there putting forth your best foot forward, doing all you can within your abilities to make it to the next level, and you got people around you saying, well, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, you're never going to make it. Those are the people who either, number one, couldn't do what you're out there trying to do, or number two, never made an effort to do what you're trying to do. And these people typically make little effort in any aspect or area of their life, unless it's in the pursuit of a comfort, something like this. They feel inadequate in your presence. They want to see you fail because it makes them feel better about themselves. Remember that. Just remember that. That's all I'm saying. So, going around looking for that manuscript, because it goes back to when I used to write, because the story was so raw, real, wonderful, and worthy of being told that it would just almost write itself and come out of me. But for years, it's like, nah, people want to read about this. People want to read about that. Well, some of the people that read my stuff don't like adult language, and they let me know about it in the comment section. So a lot of this stuff I was writing in Utopia Shattered and some of the other works in that collection, it was like, oh, I can't release that, man. I got this one little old lady that has read all my books and, watches me on YouTube or wherever, Facebook. We're over 1 million followers on Facebook now. We're crushing it on Instagram, because we're taking, and by we, I mean me, in the work behind the scenes. You don't see that my beautiful bride, Giggly Girl, or Dearly, aka Giggly Girl, does. She does a lot of the admin stuff, so I don't have to waste my time doing that, because those activities don't generate revenues. So she does that, okay? So, but she is compensated very well for that. It's funny. People always say, what do you do, Dearly? Do you work? She's like, nah. They're like, don't you get bored? She's like, nah. What she doesn't tell them is what we don't tell people. So I want to find this thing. And so I got chills. It was so real when I finished it. I went through 3 or 4 drafts. I'm going to have to go through some more drafts. And it's great because it's been 3 years since I've held it in my hands and looked at it, because I didn't save it on the cloud. I destroyed the thumb drive I had it on, because I was like, this is these human beings are not worthy of reading the literature that descended from the gods through my tips, because it's just, they'll judge it. I'm not going to like this bad word. Really? So the greatest story you've ever read you don't like because of one bad word? But I wouldn't take those bad words out, because like I said, I was not capping. I was being a buck. I was like, bucks were flying out of my billfold as I wrote this thing, man. And I refused to take out those handful of swear words, because it would detract from the story. It would take away from it. It wouldn't be real. Because when you're out there in life and the crap's going down, people don't say, oh, poopity doo. They say, holy you know what I'm saying? So if you're not writing like that, your writing's not real. So it's so real. So I printed off a paper copy of it, and I put a paper clip on it, one of those ones that bend over, like the fancy schmancy ones. And what a view. Isn't this a beautiful view? I like to sit right here, like throughout the day, different times of the day, because it all looks different depending upon how the sun's hitting it, or if there's no sun, if it's overcast. This is one of the areas we like to sit. And I sit here and little rabbits run up to me in the summer. It's great. The honeybees I feed, I was telling some friends this the other night. I talk to them when I'm feeding them. So like any animal, like your dogs that you think love you and your cats that you think just ignore you but secretly love you. No, they associate you with providing them with their needs. So I'm down there talking to these honeybees every time I feed them. So I can be on like the opposite end of the property. And if I'm making a video, you've seen it in videos, they hear my voice and they come to me, and like as I'm feeding them their stuff, they're eating it off my fingers. So all these little honeybees will just land on my fingers, and it's really neat. And I'll stand there or I'll sit there and keep making my videos with them on my fingers. It's really great. So digging holes because I've had my metal detector out and I can't find that paper clip. And I think I remember the part of the property I buried it on, because I'm gonna get it out and I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna have to retype the entire work. Yeah, but that's fine, because that gives me another opportunity to properly edit this thing, because you better believe me, when I find it, not if, when, because I'm not giving up. And it goes back to learning early in life that when you have setbacks, when you have failures, the absolute most terrible, worst thing you can do is just stop and don't make any more efforts past that point because you just failed. That becomes a habit, and we form habits that become who we are, because we are that which we repeatedly do. So if we allow ourselves to get in the habit of just backing off because that was uncomfortable, backing off because maybe there was some pain associated with it, or backing off and giving and just not doing it anymore because we haven't reached the level of success we hoped that we would have achieved by this point, that will become habitual. And then any little difficulty you have in life, you're just not even going to make an attempt. You're not going to make an effort. Now, that works if, I don't know, maybe you're born rich or you got somebody willing to take care of you through the long haul of life. But if that's not your story, which I know is the case for 97% of the world, you better not form the habit of quitting. And if you have done that, you better stop right now. And the good news is, hey, it's really easy, because all you got to do is change your mindset. You change your mindset, which will change your belief system, which will bring you to change the actions that you take going forward, which will lead you to success. What do you mean? Well, when you want to stop, you want to quit and give up, don't. Keep going. When you want to reach over there and grab that Twinkie instead of that banana, don't. Grab the banana. Unless you're a man over 50, then you'll never eat this gut food again. Yeah, I know, it's clickbait. It's terrible how people create so much of that garbage and put it on the social medias. That's some pooty-doo. All right. So I'm almost desperate here to find this manuscript now. And I'm looking and I'm digging and I'm digging. And then yesterday I hit something. You saw the cover image of this video? I took a picture. I hit it. I hit this something solid. And so I unearthed it partially. And that's when it occurred to me what unimaginable discovery I'd unearthed while digging these holes. And I was like, that can't be what I think it is. So I took my camera out, my phone, to snap that picture, with the intentions, of course, being to continue digging and unearth this thing in its entirety, right? But let me tell you something. When I took that picture, in that moment, something came back to me that I guess I'd buried. And I had this extreme moment of terror. I mean, it goes beyond shock or fear. It was terror. Because I guess there's something that I buried, and this brought it back up. Let me tell you, here's the thing about PTSD. It's very real. And it doesn't have, you didn't have to serve in a combat zone like me to get PTSD. Victims of rape have PTSD. assault. It's basically, if you go through something traumatic, if you experience a terrible event, it can lead to PTSD. It most likely will. And for those of you cool cats who keep up with modern pop culture, I guess I'm supposed to, yes, you're right, I'm supposed to be saying PTS now. Supposed to make me feel better about having it. Whatever, I feel the same. I never felt bad about having it in the first place. Isn't this beautiful? Look, we're clearing out this forest. This is the part we allowed to regrow. This used to be a hayfield as well. So this summer I went in here with clippers, the electronic clippers I have. CC or Seesaw clippers, they're great. They're one of my sponsors. And they're so wonderful I can't even remember how to pronounce their name. But I go through their electronics. I don't have to... It's like zoop, zoop, zoop. And so these little brush piles used to be trees. I go through and I cut out, I find I stick with the winners. I find the ones that want to be there, the big, strong, the ones that are doing well. And I go through and I cut out all the losers in an 8-foot diameter around them. And I don't know. So what we're trying to do is get it to where we can come up here and walk through it. Because for the first 8 years or so, it was underbrush. It was, the wild black raspberry brambles. And so, of course, the trees have eliminated much of those berries because they're stealing their sun from them as they get taller. But we're getting some fruit-bearing persimmons trees in here now. It's really wonderful. It's a native fruit tree to this part of the world. So, you'd be amazed about what can cause PTSD. Let me give you, and you can Google this. You can find this video on YouTube. It's not my video. It's something I watched the other night, and I'm like, that sums it up. That right there says everything I'm always saying about PTS. Do you remember? Now, I know like 74% of you watching this video are my age or older, so you'll probably remember this. You got to go all the way back to the year 1992. I mean, this for those of us who were born back in the 1900s, a million years ago. There was an alternative rock band named Pearl Jam. Kind of dressed like this. But it was down. They had a couple of really big songs, but their biggest is probably Even Flow. You don't really know most of the words. It sounds like this. But then when he gets to the chorus, you can clearly understand that he's saying, even flow. You know the song, right? Well, you remember at the beginning of that video, it's like Eddie Vedder, the lead singer. He's like 10 different kinds of pissed off because the cameraman won't turn off the lights or something. And they capture this scene because the video is from a live performance, a bunch of footage put together. And Eddie Vedder is like, turn these effing lights off, Josh. But he doesn't say effing, he says a real word, and they bleep it out. This was on MTV. This is back when they used to play music. I think MTV just celebrated their 40th anniversary. MTV, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for 6 years worth of music. I blame this video specifically for the change coming about. So that video was huge. And it was played on MTV 40 times a day. So 40 times a day... Everybody, I graduated high school in 1992, so I was a youth and I was in the prime of music matters so much in life. Man, we used to go around the school yelling at each other, turn these effing lights off, Josh. Like say track practice or cross country practice after school. We'd be in the locker room, we'd shower, we'd be leaving. And as we're leaving, somebody would yell, turn the effing lights off, Josh. Of course, we were Gen X, not Gen Z, so we didn't make up a word. We weren't like, turn the aluminum lights off, Josh. We didn't create our own language. We used the one that was already there for us to use. So we were like, turn the real word lights off, Josh, right? You can see why when I really write for real, it's real. I keep it a buck because I grew up a buck and I'm still a buck, brah. But I'm not the damn buck that's going around destroying my trees. Man, so many words have so many different uses, and we're supposed to keep up with all this, and then it changes, and then when you use one, you've offended an entire demographic. It's like, wait a minute, last month that word meant this. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you some of those examples. I'd get canceled. Never heard of that. It used to be, you don't like what that guy says, don't listen to him anymore. But now, well, no, wait, these days are gone. I'd say by January, that won't be in existence in pop culture anymore. So anyway, do you ever have these weird thoughts? It's like, wonder whatever happened to. Why? The other night I was like, I wonder whatever happened to Josh. Who is Josh? This is just the way my mind works. I'm like, who is this guy? I mean, Eddie Vedder, people got so sick and tired of hearing Eddie Vedder scream at Josh and all the Josh jokes that came with that. I honestly believe that's when MTV decided to stop playing music videos and start playing stupid reality shows that had nothing to do with reality. I think it's Josh's fault. I think Josh, whoever this Josh guy is, single-handedly destroyed MTV. All because he wouldn't turn off the effing lights. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just how I think. That's how I see things in this head. So I Googled it. I'm like, who the heck was Josh and whatever happened to him? Man, what I found was not pleasant. And there's a video. It's only about 2 minutes long. If I can remember to do so, I'll put the link of that video in this description box below. It's not my channel. I hope the dude gets 1 million views if I do this, because, I mean, this shows my proof. You can get PTSD from anything. You want to know how Josh's life turned out? Not well. Why? Because it was to the point to where he couldn't walk down the street without people coming up from behind him and yelling, "Turn the effing lights out, Josh!" And then them and their friends group would want to run away laughing. So, I mean, he couldn't go out in public. He's like, whatever, I'm gonna go get a coffee or whatever. You know, he'd be sitting there having a coffee, and like everybody in the coffee shop would like, they oh, come on three, right? So they jump up out of their chairs and bum rush him, and he's like, oh my God, I'm gonna get attacked. And they get right to him and they'd yell, "Turn the effing lights off, Josh!" And then they'd start laughing and they'd leave. This dude can't leave his house, and he can't turn on the lights. He's afraid if he turns the lights on, somebody's gonna come from out of nowhere and yell, "Turn the effing lights off, Josh!" So he stays in his house. He's an agoraphobe. He's suffering from PTSD. It doesn't matter what the trauma is. And when you look out there and you see people who live like Josh, you know, don't judge them. It's like, why is that weird agoraphobe who just drinks all the time, never go anywhere? Dude, that might be Josh. You might unknowingly live next door to Josh. Yeah, well, he lives that way because at some point in his life, somebody kept yelling at him to turn the effing lights out. I'm just keeping it a buck. So you can imagine in that moment why, when I was digging and I hit that thing that I photographed, I had a flashback, and I'm not going to say what it was, and this video would be unmonetized anyway due to the graphic nature of the details of that story. But it brought me back to that place in that moment, and it's like I just took off running. I like had my phone in one hand, my shovel in the other, and I beat it to the house. I haven't been back. I'm standing where that discovery was made. I know I was doing a lot of digging here because we had a garden here that we used to use. We will use it again. We wanted this privacy hedge to grow up quite a bit more, which it has. So I've planted vegetables here. I put up the fence. I dug holes and this is where the former hay collector was like really losing his stuff, man. Like, why are you digging all those holes? Why are you digging all those holes? And I'm thinking, what doesn't he want me to find? Well, now I'm out here looking for something I buried. That manuscript to Utopia Shattered. And I will find it. I will finalize the edits and I will publish it because these stories need to be read. But I'm running a great risk while I'm digging these holes because I don't know what else is buried out here. Humans have been living on my property for 14,000 years. Yeah, going back to the Native Americans. So anyway, with phone in hand, I am going to attempt to face my fears. And I'm going to walk over to what I partially unearthed yesterday, this gruesome discovery. And I'm going to get it on film. And I'm going to try to reach down within me and overcome that fear of the former previous event. And I'm going to grab what I've unearthed, this hideous discovery. I'm going to pull it up on video. It's not my manuscript, brah. Did you see the cover image of this video? Yeah, it's that. Let's do it. Brah. All right, so I just flipped the phone. There's an apple tree we planted. This portion, I didn't really have to really clear many trees because they weren't grown. This is more like a permanent meadow area, so we planted a dozen fruit trees. And no, that's not to kill the cute little Bambis that come eat it. That's to watch for Bigfoot Sasquatch. Potentially. All right, so we're over here behind the garden. You got to bear with me. The hole where I unearthed this gruesome discovery is over here somewhere. We're going to creep up on it. I am not yet fully convinced I know what it is, but you saw the cover image of this video. It's hideous. It's a hideous, gruesome discovery that I unearthed. See the hole? Maybe I should zoom in on it. Oh my gosh, oh my God, this is terrifying. I'm going back to that place, but I'm going to try to resist. I'm going to try to overcome my fear and reach in there and grab this thing and pull it out of the ground. I see, there it is. There it is. You gotta bear with me. Oh my God, I am so scared right now. I am like, oh my God, look at that. Look at that. Is that what it appears to be? I'm gonna do it, guys. Oh my God, I can barely. Oh my God, the memories. The horrendous tragic events. I'm gonna overcome them. I'm gonna get turn the effing lights off, Josh! Turn the effing lights off, Josh!